Hey everyone, I wanted to bring a quick video for you on Exodus chapter 27. So this past Sunday we were in Exodus 26 and I made the point of saying that hey, we have to be careful not to skip over chunks of scripture. We have to be careful not to skip over sections that may seem like there's not much to offer us at first. And so we went through some of the details in Exodus 26 to show why it's important not to skip over scripture. There's also a flip side of that, though, that it can also be problematic. And I've seen this in YouTube videos. I've seen this in podcast episodes. I've seen this in books and articles and blog posts and personal conversations with people. And that's when Christians force something into Scripture that's just not there. And so we've talked about exegesis and eisegesis. If you need a refresher on those words, exegesis, exegetical preaching and teaching. What does the Bible actually say? That's what we're going to talk about. Eisegesis, eisegetical teaching and preaching. What do I want the Bible to say? And forcing meaning into Scripture and stuff that's not actually there. Where I've seen that happen a lot is, and this is based on, like I'm saying, this is based on what I've seen, what I've read from the Big C Church, what I've engaged with in personal conversations. Taking a passage and wanting to demonstrate that we have such a deep level of understanding, and esotericism is a word we've used as well, esoteric knowledge, special knowledge, right? Like, I understand this in a way that you can't, and so I'm going to take a passage that may be pretty obvious and straightforward, and I'm going to tell you the hidden meaning to it. I had a conversation one time with a pastor. This was with someone pastoring a church, and he said, one of my favorite things, I love numbers. And so I love sitting down with, anytime you have Bible chapters like in the Old Testament that give a lot of numbers and measurements and stuff, I love, seeing what equations I can use to come up with like a hidden meaning to those numbers. Like I love, okay, if you multiply these and then divide by the 12 tribes and do this, you can arrive at this number, and that's what that passage is really kind of, that's like the hidden meaning getting to it. And this was someone pastoring a church, and I was like, what in the world are we doing? And so when you come to Exodus 27, I think it's worth it to not skip over it, but I also think there's not a lot of hidden secret meanings. There's not, deeper levels of understanding. And so as I was doing sermon prep for this series and as I've been working on it, when I got to Exodus 27, I realized we've talked about the stuff that's in there that is truly meaty enough to unpack in a sermon. We've done sermons on. It's been covered by Exodus. The other stuff, I genuinely felt like I would be approaching it with eisegesis. I would be trying to force meaning that's not there to justify a full-length sermon. But we don't want to skip over it entirely. And so I want to just kind of do some quick hits through Exodus 27. You start with, you've got the bronze altar. I came across people talking about, well, here's the secret significance of the horns of the bronze altar. Here's the secret significance of the bronze compared to some of the material. Like, I just don't see that in the text. I don't see that there is any hidden meaning to the bronze altar. Same thing with the court of the tabernacle. I don't see that there's, faithful to the text, some sort of deeper understanding, when it talks about 20 pillars and 20 bases. I don't see that God's trying to use some secret numerology to teach us a hidden lesson. What stands out to me, what we've already talked about in Exodus, and what I want to hit as a quick refresher in, till verse 19, talking about the court and the bronze altar, we see that God cares about every detail, that God has specific plans that he has called his people to. He has not called his people, he's not called Moses, he's not called the Israelites to come up with the design on their own. He said, no, I've come up with the design. I've come up with the structure. I've come up with the system. I've come up with the plan. I've come up with the sketch, right? You follow what I've laid out. We've looked at this in multiple sermons already in Exodus. And this is a chapter that reminds me of those lessons we've already looked at. So I don't want to skip over 27, but I'm also not going to pretend like there's something secret there that we haven't yet gotten to. I think those sections really reinforce what we've already looked at. Then you have Exodus 27, verses 20 to 21, the last two verses talking about oil for the lamp. We did a whole sermon on the lamp. How Jesus is the light, the perfect light that shines, how we are called to reflect that light and to shine our light. And so you see these commands to, hey, don't let the lamp go out. Keep the light burning. Like, here's the oil that you are to keep supplying the lamp with. And so I think, again, Exodus 27 reminds us of what we've already seen in Exodus, this call to take our charge seriously from the Lord and to pursue it with every effort that we have in us so that we can keep the lamp shining But I don't think there's anything different in this section talking about the lamp than in the last section we talked about the lamp. I don't think there's something special that needs to be unlocked or unpacked. I don't think we need someone to walk us through this chapter. I think this is a very straightforward chapter, and I want to be fair and faithful to the text, so I'm not going to force a sermon and say, okay, well, I need to fill 45 minutes, so what can I come up with? What can I make up to justify talking about, well, here's why the horns of the altar curved out and not in, right? Like, I don't think that's a faithful way to teach the text. So we didn't want to skip over it. We didn't want to fly through it. So I encourage you to read Exodus 27 on your own, and you should see themes of what we've already talked about in this book. So it should be a chapter that we can all engage with. And if you can't, if you're struggling with it, that's okay. Like, reach out to us. Let us know. We'll send you, hey, okay, rewatch this sermon, and then look for what you see in this chapter as well. So we didn't want to skip over it. There's nothing in scripture worth skipping over. But we also didn't want to force something onto it that's not there. And so that is Exodus 27 in a little over 5 minutes. And then we'll resume with 28 and 29 this coming Sunday.